So my name is Martha Van Berkel, and I am the CEO here at Schema App. And I'm absolutely delighted to be able to share with you 16 ways to benefit from structured data today and also in the future. This is one of my favorite topics because it's really the whole why are we doing structured data and why is it important? Now, if you weren't here today, where would you actually go to answer the question of like, what is important about it or what is structured data? Well, we all know the answers. We probably go to Google, but we might go and ask our voice assistant or our watch, or perhaps as we drive in our Tesla, use voice search in order to find the answer. And you're not alone. 90% of customers report that they use search at every stage of the customer lifecycle, whether they're at the awareness stage, trying to understand things, researching, doing comparisons, or when they're filing in purchase or retention. And so you may ask, when you do that search, how does Google and other search engines find you the best answer in order to answer your question? Well, the search engines crawl the web looking for reputable results. And you can see here with Schema Markup, it's looking for, over 5 million different results. And yet it's lots of different things that contribute. And those of you that are seasoned SEOs know that it's not just like one thing, one silver bullet that actually allows you to rank and show up in those search results. There's keywords, crawlability, page speed, ease of use, content, descriptions, meta tags, and then there's also schema markup. Now, if you've heard me already using two different terms to describe schema markup or structured data, they are actually equivalent. The reason why at Schema App we like the word schema markup is because it's more precise. Structured data can mean many different things. And since we're going to talk about making things as clear as possible, schema markup tends to be what we use, but they're interchangeable. Now let's get in a little bit about what is schema markup and structured data. Make sure that we're all level set on exactly what it is. Well, the first thing you need to know is that there's a vocabulary. When I say vocabulary, think of this as a language, the language of search engines. Just like you would translate something from English to French, you would use the schema.org vocabulary to translate things for search engines. Now, schema.org vocabulary was founded by the search engines in 2011. And can you believe that? 2011. It's not new at all. And it continues to be maintained by a community group chaired by Dan Brickley from Google. And my co-founder, Mark Van Berkel, is also very involved. And when you add the code called schema markup to your website, you provide search engines clarity about the content, therefore applying the schema.org vocabulary to your content. So I like to just say that we translate content into the language of search engines, which is schema.org. Now, schema.org reads a little bit like a foreign dictionary, no matter what language you speak. So let's kind of go through the basics of it, since this sort of helps you just understand, how schema markup and schema.org works. So if you go to schema.org and you look for perhaps a coffee shop, so I always have this dream of starting Martha's Cafe. And so when I would go to describe it, I wouldn't just say it's a local business, but I would actually get really specific and say it's a cafe or a coffee shop. And this sort of high-level description of what it is, that thing you're describing, is known as a class. And then in order to describe the things about my coffee shop, we use things called properties. So think of these as just ways that I'm describing the primary topic. So it accepts reservations, has a specific menu, serves a specific cuisine, or has a certain star rating. Now, schema markup is code. So when we actually talk about the vocabulary and translating it, we're actually going to produce code. What I'm showing here is a result out of Google's structured data testing tool, where we see sort of the code in the square on the left, and then a translation of that on the right into something that makes a bit more sense to us. It's saying, this page is about a job posting. It has this unique ID, which is the URL. It was posted on this date. The name of it is Customer Success Manager, and it has a specific description. So all you need to know from here is schema markup is actually code. Now, there's many different types of things within the schema.org vocabulary. So I'll highlight just a couple here so you can see the different examples. So here, an article is a creative work. So a blog posting, for example, is a type of article, which is a type of creative work. And again, it has specific properties that describe it. The same goes for really, really specific things, such as surgical procedures. We've been working with a lot of medical and health organizations. And again, you want to be as specific as possible when you're describing the thing on your website and translating it for the search engines. And again, the surgical procedure is going to have very different properties than, let's say, a local business or an article. Here, how is it performed? What's the medical indication? What's the outcome of this surgical procedure? Now, often when you're trying to use schema.org and translate and be really specific, you also can use other definitions on the web in order to bring clarity. And so one of the best practices we often talk about at Schema app is using Wikipedia references. So here, what is, the removal of a gallbladder surgery? Let's make sure that we're really clear that, when we're describing this surgical procedure, it is, frankly, the additional type cholecystectomy. We could have picked a name I could say, right? Or if we're saying sort of where we're located, for example, Schema app is located in the city of Guelph, Ontario, Canada, I could actually, define the city as Guelph, or my service area as Guelph, even though we serve all around the world. So using Wikipedia as a reference is another way to sort of connect the dots and define things within schema.org. All right, there's 840 classes. This vocabulary is very large. Most people know just the different features that Google talks about, but there's 840 classes, and all of them have at least 20 properties, sometimes up to 40. There's also external extensions. Think of these as just more classes and more ways to describe things. And there's specific vocabularies that were developed by focus communities for automotive, health, finance, also known as FIBO, and bibliographic. Some of the most common schema.org classes, or think of this as the type of things on the web, are organizations, local business, products, services, people, events, FAQs. I'll let you read the rest. So there's, this is just a handful of different classes, but there really are, 840 plus if we include all the extensions. Also, schema markup is done in 3 different formats: JSON-LD, microdata, and RDFA. Although Google has made it very clear over really the last probably 3 or 4 years that they do recommend using JSON-LD. Now, for those of you that aren't very technical, let me just let you understand the difference between what microdata and what JSON-LD might look like. So microdata, you can see it's actually like tagging different parts of the page. So this microdata actually sits within the code within the page. And then JSON-LD is done in a block. Now you can understand why Google prefers JSON-LD, because it's much easier for a machine and much more efficient if all the code's in one place. It also makes it much easier to maintain if it's sort of in one big chunk. So all you have to know is JSON-LD, the schema markup's in one big chunk. So that's what schema markup is, and really it delivers a standard format for providing information about what a page is about and how to classify the content. So now that you know what that is, let's jump into why do we care? What are all these benefits I keep talking about? Well, let's start at the first one. All of us are in business. The first thing that we have seen from results from our enterprise customers is that schema markup drives business results. And what I love about this is it drives results not only at the beginning of the funnel through impressions, clicks, and click-through rate, but all the way through that customer journey, from the time that they're spending on the page, the time that they're interacting, all the way to driving conversion or revenue. What evidence do I have for this? Well, we have a couple public case studies as well as lots of other data from our current customers. And from the case studies that you can see on our website, we have Keen Footwear that saw 20% year-over-year organic traffic growth, Donovan Digital that saw 20 times faster implementation, and Whitaker Brothers, which is 36.82 more revenue. So these are not just nice to have metrics, but real business metrics that help us drive our business goals. Now, if you don't believe my case studies, let's go to Google's. And Google has been starting to publish these more aggressively. In fact, the Monster one is over just the last month we've seen it appear. So for Monster, they saw a 94% increase in organic traffic for job detail pages. Eventbrite saw a boost of 100% of traffic. Rakuten saw an increase of time on site per 1.5 times. Job Radio saw double organic traffic, conversion rate increase for ZipRecruiter. So again, these are really, really robust, tangible business results. my first reason why you should do structured data. But if you don't believe me, let's go over the other 15. The number 2 is findability. So let's go through the basics here. So without rich results are sort of what sort of is a feature once you do schema markup. All you really see is a title, a URL, and a description. They're very boring. But when you actually have rich results or structured data sort of driving new content to life, all of a sudden you have carousels, you have additional information, images, or answers like directly in the search results. And this is really coming from rich results enabled with structured data. You only get those results if you actually adopt and do structured data. And how do we know this? Well, Google is very bold and blunt on their website. In fact, they have an entire gallery to show you the pretty pictures and outputs that you can get once you adopt structured data. So I encourage you to go to the structured data search gallery in order to see all the many different kinds, of which some I'll highlight today. Now, Google takes schema markup a little further. Not only do they have specific features, but they also tell you exactly what properties they want to see. So remember we talked about those classes and then the ways to describe those classes. Well, here they are listing the required properties, the things that they want to see specifically for different types of content. In this example, it's a job posting and they're saying, well, we want the date posted, the description, and the hiring organization. And so Google is actually telling you exactly what content to include for these different product types. This then informs your content strategy. So if you're doing a job posting, we just posted 3 jobs that we're looking to hire here at Schema App. And I don't like putting the base salary on the website, but Google tells me that that's something that they want. And so you can actually work backwards from looking at the type of required and recommended fields that Google is looking for in order to inform the content on your pages. Now you can also go a step further and go to schema.org, and here are then 40 properties that all the search engines said on a topic, let's say a cafe or that surgical procedure. Here are all the things that I want to know about that topic. So it'll inspire linking existing content, augmenting your existing content, and perhaps creating new content on your website. Number 4 reason is you want to stand out with rich results. Now we're going to give you a ton of examples here. So the first is here a carousel. Now, I'm part of a book club and I'm often known as the person who brings like the really crummy book. And so using Google, I was able to look at the top books so I'd never have that problem again. Now these carousels are also available for article, recipes, and course. Rating and review snippets, if anyone's ever done any shopping, here we're looking at mortgages or Children of Men Rotten Tomatoes review for a movie. Here are ways that you can actually get, direct input from other people in the world to help you make a decision. And these ratings and reviews today on Google documentation are supported for books, recipe, media actions, products, and local business. We have also seen these show up specifically on blog postings, although it's not documented. Recipes, who wants to actually like go into a great recipe and then find out it takes 5 hours? That additional information about how many pounds you're going to put on after you enjoy that beautiful pie, or how long it's going to take you, directly in the rich results from the recipe rich snippet. Products, same thing. What's the price? Whether it's in stock. And so it really begs the question of, when you actually look at a quick result, what would you buy and how is that informing that decision? So we have a chat or a Q&A. So if there's any questions you have, you can ask them in Q&A. Q&A is being armed by my team here, Jeff, Taylor, and Mark. So feel free to put those in, but put in a number, which one of these pies would you go ahead and bake? And have a look and just throw your answer in there. So we'll have a quick look and see what people are throwing in there. All right, so for me, it's like number 3. Like I wouldn't really want to bake anything other than number 3, mostly because I don't want to spend any more time than I have to, and it has amazing reviews. And this just really goes to show the type of experience that the rich results are providing and how that's impacting our day-to-day decision making. Now, the 5th reason that you should do structured data is to attract readers. Now, while we know that AMP also contributes to this, we're also seeing carousels, visual stories, headline text showing up as a result of adding structured data to your news articles and blogs. How many of us run events? So today's event, are expecting over 200 people, but how much time is our marketing team spending time on events? When actually, if we add structured data, we can have that event information show directly in the search results, but also show up in these like interesting experiences within Google. Organization's knowledge panel. You know, when I talk to marketers that own brand, I find this like really interesting. And when we first looked at this company's knowledge panel, the logo actually wasn't fitting on the site. They didn't have any support phone numbers. But with structured data, we've been able to increase the number of information that you see here today. And so they've been able to update their logo. You know, what's interesting about the social profiles, it's one of the oldest features that is Google, and we just saw it deprecated over the last couple weeks. Deprecated means that they're no longer supporting it. So you also can increase engagement with video, now option to play, view, all within the search results. Finally, attracting perfect candidates. Again, we just posted 3 new jobs. How do you actually have the job information directly show up in search so that you can get visibility to that most important candidate that you want jobs? So what I've just run through there are some of the top benefits and features that I want to highlight, but there's tons of other opportunities for rich results that we don't have time to go through today. Books, breadcrumbs, corporate contacts, courses, fact-check recipes. And if you actually get a chance, once you're sort of hooked that you have to do structured data, you can watch our reader article on how to do a schema markup webinar that allows you to map and say which of these should your company go after in order to get great results. So another poll, put it in the chat or in the questions. What would you engage with on here? Would you click on the ad? Would you engage in the flights to Toronto? Or would you actually go ahead and click on that first organic search result? So take a minute and feel free to throw your information there. All right, 2 is what we're seeing. So number 2, yes. So what's really interesting is that we're seeing Google want to really own that experience, and that where they're actually like trying to pull in information from different places in order to help provide service or answer questions for you directly. And so what's really interesting is we're seeing this across careers, across flights, across podcasts. And in fact, Google just released a new feature that was for employer aggregate rating. So you can imagine for people who are looking for great companies to work for, it looks as though Google's going to also probably try to pull that into the search experience, since they're going to have a feature in order to pull that information. And so what this means, I think, as we see Google take over that sort of first part of the customer experience, is that you really need a way to control or improve your brand. And so here, one of those control elements is through structured data. How do you make sure your information is relevant and connected to your brand while also leveraging the fact that you want it to show up in these great places? So recently, this past quarter, Schema app turned 3. We've been excited about the benefits of structured data since about 2014. We were very early adopters of this. But it seemed like Google, maybe it was a coincidence, but they made some pretty big announcements around our 3rd birthday. And so we were delighted. The first was that they announced a new feature for how-to. And what we love about how-to is that it applies to many, many businesses. And they're saying that, within the mobile experience and in search, they'll provide a description, image carousels, even time, materials, and steps with regards to how to do things. Now, also, they announced FAQs. So how do you actually get quick answers to appear in search? Now, really Google announcing these plans for structured data just felt like a ton of birthday presents for us. So not only, as we've just reviewed, that rich results appear in search, but now we also know that if you do these features, they'll also appear on Google Assistant or Google Home. And this is really, really exciting because that means that, for all this growth in search results, if you do structured data, you're going to be ready and already appearing in those voice searches. It's something we've been waiting to hear announced, but now, from the horse's mouth from Google, specifically at Google I/O. And so our reason number 11 for why you should do structured data is when you've optimized for search, you're also optimized for voice. Now, the last present Google gave us for our 3rd birthday was around being discovered on all surfaces. So what are surfaces? Surfaces really extend on all the ways that people are going to be interacting with your data. whether that be through the computer, through a car, through a voice assistant, or through a phone. How do you actually make sure that you're discovered on all voice surfaces? And here's the quote that was announced at Google I/O. And I love hearing this because I think it really explains to us, grounding, why this is so important. And they called out reaching users at different moments and surfaces offers great opportunities for content creators. But building and maintaining customer experiences on these surfaces can bring a lot of extra work for you. And so this is our motivation for working on structured data program. Now, this last one is, when you do a search result, you see tons of ads. And while I don't have a concrete case study to show you on this, we have had stories from our clients that say when they add structured data, that it reduces cost of their ads as well as increases their quality score. And this kind of makes sense. If structured data is helping explain explicitly what the things are on the page and sort of what that content is and help better match that in organic search, that it might also help them add higher quality within the ads and therefore getting a better ad match. Notice the word may here. We hope to have a good case study that we have hard evidence on this soon. Now, there's a big difference between basic coverage of structured data and great coverage. And so I often talk about islands of schema markup. So remember I showed you that chunk of code that was JSON LD? Well, sometimes there's chunks of code that are never connected. So you kind of describe your organization on your homepage, you describe your products and your product pages and your articles over here, but nothing's actually connected. And if you do schema markup properly, it can really tell a concrete, clear story. So here I want you to imagine that we're a real estate company that owns a bunch of apartment complexes that rents them out. And so I'm an organization with a European office, a Canadian office. My Canadian office has contact information, job postings, blogs, and people, but it also, owns some apartment complexes, and that apartment complex itself has reviews, videos, and ratings. And within that apartment complex, there are a bunch of apartments. But because I rent the apartments, they're also a product, and as a result, they have a price, different features that are offered, images, and videos. And so when you do your schema markup properly, it actually tells a story. And this kind of comes a little bit back to brand control. But how are you wanting things to be interpreted? How do you want things to be connected? And you can imagine if you connect all your information like this, that you're actually building a knowledge graph. And Google's definition of knowledge graph is like understanding facts about people's, places, and things and how they're all connected. And when you do your structured data properly, you're actually building and managing your brand's knowledge graph. And this becomes very important because a knowledge graph is actually that sort of connected entities that informs search. It also is what might inform other machines, such as a chatbot. Because a chatbot is really just another search engine. And in talking to a leading company in chatbots, and specifically their AI chatbot division, we had strong indication that they are indeed trying to build knowledge graphs or ontologies in order for their chatbots to learn, and what we use the word infer things. And so when you think about building your schema markup properly, you can then reuse it to power a chatbot, again having this like really strong layer of how all your information is connected and how it's explaining your information for these different machines. Now, schema markup is very effective, but when it's done properly. This is one of our favorite awareness campaigns where we talked about like the wrong schema markup can cause more harm than good. And if you have a page that where you're basically saying, is it a review? Is it a local business? Is it a contact point? Contact point is the schema.org vocabulary for contact information. If all of this information is on one page, you could actually confuse the search engines to say, what is this actual page about? Because the structured data maps to exactly what that content is, and you should have really one primary topic that you're talking about on that page, and then instead connect it to these other things instead. Now, we had a client that was on one of our pro accounts, so it's more of our do-it-yourself account that they were using, and then we helped sort of them deliver strategy on the 19th, and we saw a significant increase in their clicks and impressions after we had inserted it properly. And we just called this out because they were sort of doing it on their own, and then we sort of helped them raise their game on it, and we saw significant impact to this site. Number 16, we've made it. This is a way also structured data can help bring you business intelligence. And it's an area that's referred to as semantic analytics, or what we've recently termed enhanced analytics, sort of enhancing your analytics with structure of the content. So in this example, we decided to see, who should write the content on our website. So, Martha and Jeff and Mark and Taylor, so a team of our customer success team and the co-founders. And, it looks like I can't give up my writing gig yet because 58% of our sessions come from content that I've created. Now, imagine if you had this information for your company. How would that change perhaps your content strategy? Or perhaps if you could do this on, different services that you offer. Are there basically features of the service that maybe you won't offer or that you can learn? And so what we're going to do is now help companies take all the content that they have in their structured data and add it into their analytics so the digital teams can then influence and provide data to even more teams to add value. If you want to learn more about this, you can type in semantic analytics or enhanced analytics schema app, and you'll see a couple different articles explaining on how this works, or just reach out to us. Now, when we've presented this before, people often ask us, like, this is great, Martha. It's like the Google show. What about Yahoo, Bing, Baidu, Yandex, DuckDuckGo? What about them and the features and how sort of we manage our brand for those search engines? Well, we decided to go and look at the latest stats. This is on StatCounter for, how the search engine market worldwide stands. And I was actually flabbergasted at the number for Google that is at 92%. And I think for the US, it was over 80. And so why do we focus on helping you make sure you're understood by Google and the Google search engines and voice assistants? Because Google owns the majority of the market share. So done properly, schema markup helps you drive business results, improves your findability, informs content strategy. So hopefully there's some of you that are content strategists in here. Stand out with rich results, attract readers to your articles, helps you promote your event, influence the content on your company's Google Knowledge panel, gives you better brand control, allows you to put actionable options in videos, attract job applicants, all ready to be ready for voice. So you can just go back to your boss and say, hey, we got voice covered. Make sure that you're discovered on all surfaces, help you reduce Google ad spend, help you build a knowledge graph and prepare for the future, enable reuse of your knowledge graph for chatbots, and deliver greater insights from your analytics. So if this doesn't convince you that structured data has huge benefits to your business, you want more conversation to kind of explore it further, please feel free to reach out to us. We do schema markup 365 days a year and are happy to answer and sort of guide you to resources we have to help you learn.